What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 11 of Optimal Function. I'm your host, Dr. Craig Banks, here with my co-host, Dr. Jim Morgenstern.
What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in.
So I was trying to figure out a way to not use gendered language. I don't know if any of you guys have seen this thing out there with the socialist video, and I'm sure if you're a socialist, hey, I'm sorry, I don't care if I offend you or not. But that video was the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. There's these people and their arms are up in the air so nobody gets triggered. And this guy comes up to the podium and he's just like, please do not use gendered language to address us. It's comical and sad and depressing because if there's any chance of our country moving towards that, I'm out.
No kidding, man. That's crazy. I mean, for you to just generally be like, "What's up, guys?" and then and girls, you have to offend
everybody by saying "guys." It's a collective term. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show, guys and girls.
And at that note, we're going to kind of start right into some of our optimal concepts of the week because I was actually out of town. We don't have an interview set up for today. So,
how was your trip? You guys went to St. Louis, right?
Yes, trip was really good. Honestly, I know St. Louis, and I honestly didn't know this before I left. St. Louis right now is considered one of the most dangerous. It's the most dangerous city in the country.
Why is that?
I guess. So here we are. We're from Northeast Ohio. We think of Cleveland. When I go to St. Louis and I see the city, it feels bigger than Cleveland. And in my head, I think of St. Louis as being a bigger city than Cleveland. But in actuality, the population is substantially lower. So I don't know if it's just a crime rate per population. And I think that's really how they dictate stuff like that. I mean, but I got to be honest, man, people were there were so friendly. We stayed at the Autograph Collection, like a Hotel St. Louis. It's right downtown on 7th and Olive. And the people at the hotel were phenomenal. We made our way out to they have something called Ballpark Village right in St. Louis. It's
I saw your picture. That looks pretty cool.
I wish Cleveland could do something like that. And I think they actually could in between Progressive Field and the Q if they were to kind of cover it up and maybe bring some of the existing restaurants that are out further and bring them under this roof. I think it'd be amazing. But
so that was not in the actual Busch Stadium. That was actually out in between stadiums.
It's right next to it. And they have a bunch of different bars and restaurants. And obviously there's a huge Budweiser presence there. So they have a restaurant that's got the Budweiser name.
Oh man, that's cool.
It was really neat, and I was there for a Cardinals. I wasn't there because of a Cardinals game, but I was at that Ballpark Village during a Cardinals game, and the away crowd. We've been fortunate enough in Cleveland to have all these different things where we've had a big turnout. So we've gotten to play in the World Series, we've gotten to play in the NBA championships. Now the Browns are kind of super popular again this year, so I know that there's going to be large turnouts. But this was an away game for a middle of the season game. And I mean, they're doing well. They're like first place or something. They're pretty good. It's a away game, and this place was packed with Cardinals fans. They had the mascot out. It was stuff we would only get at an away game if we had a playoff going on.
Right. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, it helps to win some championships, which the Cardinals have done. And the Blues just won a championship in the Stanley Cup. So,
in the Budweiser Center in the plant, they had one of their big storage kegs. It's not a keg, obviously, but one of their big storage tanks where they were doing their Beechwood aging. They had a set of headphones on, and they the Gloria song from the 80s. That's the song that they play when they win. And Budweiser went all out, had these giant headphones, and I mean 7 foot on each ear piece.
What?
Attached to the tank that said play Gloria, and then the whole team had gone through the tour and signed it. So
that's awesome.
I got a picture of that. I thought it was just a really cool embracing of the sports teams there. So, I mean, you and I are
no doubt.
Fans, so obviously that was cool.
That looked cool. And then touch on the that haunted house you guys went to.
So we went to a place called the Lemp Mansion, and it is number 4, I think, right now in the country as far as a haunted spot. And I guess it's considered more of a subtle haunt. It's not like people are, reaching out, grabbing you, dragging you down the hallway. But we still have to go through, Courtney and I have to go through our videos. She's doing that in the other room right now. They gave us night cams. We walked around, and there were some creepy things in there. There were multiple suicides that happened in the mansion. One guy shot himself in the heart twice. Not sure how you do that. And be a suicide.
Wow.
A couple other ones shot themselves in the head. There was maybe a ward of the state or an illegitimate child that was like kind of like locked up upstairs at one point. People still see him like waving out of the windows and stuff.
Oh my gosh.
It was cool. So, I mean, we didn't really see anything, but we were taken through by a set of ghost hunters, and they were independent from the facility.
Okay.
They weren't getting paid, but they showed us some of the pictures that they have caught going through there and other places. But it's almost like
pretty cool and all. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, pretty legit and convincing pictures. And these are just,
I don't know if Allie would do that with me. I don't know that I would do it with me, but I think it looked pretty cool, man.
It wasn't that bad, man. I mean, going through, I think you get more excited to see what's going to happen, and just the old creepy vibe, and seeing the original facility. Lemp was a beer brewery. Okay. Kind of before Budweiser, and they still have the huge brewery totally vacant. Insane.
Wow.
It's insane.
So was this at nighttime or kind of as the sun was going down, and then like how long did the tour last? Okay.
We went at 7:30. We kind of did a half an hour of like a run through of the little cameras and how to use them and stuff. And then after that, we did about a 45-minute to an hour tour through all the different bedrooms, and it was.
I gotta ask, how'd you sleep that night?
I slept okay, but they do let you rent out rooms in the place when they.
No way.
Yes. And when you stay there, you're staying in these rooms where, like he said, if you bring a UV light, you'll still see where the blood pooled.
Oh my God, that's so creepy, man.
1800s, and or I'm sorry, 1900s. But when they do that, no staff stays. The staff won't stay.
Yeah, I'd be out with the staff.
When you're
for sure,
like 11 o'clock, they're like, "Okay, you need anything? All right, bye, we're out." So,
and then they come back at like 7 or 8 in the morning, or what?
Yeah, and get you all checked out and stuff. And they run it like a bed and breakfast, but they don't let, like, none of the staff stays, and like the kitchen people, they won't talk about anything that they've seen. They're real weird about it.
Dang. Well, that sounds pretty cool.
It was fun, and it kind of brings us to our optimal concept.
Yes, finally we're here.
Yes, we took a minute to get there, but we wanted to talk about the benefits of taking a vacation.
Well, I know one of the benefits you're going to go over definitely wasn't going to get benefited very much from what you just finished up with. But yeah, guys, so I think it's real important, and Craig and I both, and it doesn't take anybody too crazy of an idea to think that it is important to take breaks, recharge your batteries, and go on a little trip, even if it's just a little weekend getaway, something to recharge your mind, recharge your inner energy. That way you can come pour it back out, when you get back into town. I know, did you end up seeing patients today, or was this just get back? Okay. Tomorrow you'll go back in? I'll
be back in tomorrow with full time. Yep.
Right. And you'll probably feel a little different. You'll be rocking a little higher and feeling good and having stories to tell. And why don't you start a little bit about what some of the benefits you were reading of, and then I'll finish with a couple that I found with.
Sure. And we did want to, hold on, I want to give credit to the place we were looking at. Maybe. In any case, we'll get back to where the credit is. But we did pull this stuff.
We'll share the link.
We'll just share it below, yeah.
Yep.
We did pull some of these off of a particular website, but they're everywhere. We're just going by just some of this person had compiled a list of about 11 of them. We're not going to go through all of them, but a couple. And one of the coolest ones that I thought was the reduction in the risk of heart attack, and it's 30% reduction on males and 50% on females for people who take regular vacations. And I mean, you can obviously tie that into stress, to being able to decompress, what type of benefits that has on your heart in general, on your brain, on probably even your digestive system. I think we get in these routines, and just going to get some different food, I think sometimes even makes a difference. You're not maybe sitting there snacking all day because you're on the go and you're doing things that are a bit more adventurous. So that's where that one comes in. So I thought that one was really cool.
And I've got another one for another organ of the body, the brain. There were some neurologists in that same study that you'd sent over. And they strongly believe that neural connections that produce feelings of calm in the body actually can become weaker over time if they're not used. So that means that we will find it even harder to turn our mind into a relaxed mode, even if we're outside of work. So you got to make sure that, you understand that vacations are going to be good for us to kind of be able to kind of bring ourselves back into that parasympathetic, relaxed state. You and I both are doing the daily Calm app, which is a 10-minute helper that gets either our day started or we use before bed. And that has made a huge difference in just taking like a moment, even in the middle of the day where maybe a peak of stress had come up. We can actually shut it down and breathe and find some calmness and maybe spearhead that stress with more of a balanced mind, not rah or anything like that. So one other thing too that I thought was cool in that article was they were showing how European countries, their workers get up to 30 days of vacation, which they believe leads to longer life expectancy and lower healthcare costs. So America, you can learn a thing or two from the guys overseas.
And I think that, running our own businesses, I do try to take a little bit more time off. And a lot of the people that work with me are independent contractors, so they're free to kind of come and go to an extent. But if I'm not there, if the other doctor's not there, probably the office is closed. So we're not running a whole lot of other things going on in there. Maybe some of the massage therapists, but I know that right now I run a 4-day week, and I think that doing the 3-day weekend thing for me was really important. And I don't always get away. A lot of times I'm still doing work on the weekends, but that 3-day kind of recharge really, really helps. And if you do, one of the other things that this site, which is Mental Floss, by the way, one of the other things that they had mentioned was when you do something a bit more adventurous, you get that natural endorphin rush too. So
right.
You get the natural high, kind of prevents you maybe from turning to other not so natural things to give you that mental stimulation. Drugs and alcohol are obviously a concern. A lot of people I'm not saying nobody does that on vacation, because I'm sure probably people do, but that being said, it can be a substitute or a totally replacement just to give you that adrenaline rush. So go.
I love that. Yeah.
Go do that zip lining tour in Mexico or wherever you're at. Just do something that's a little bit more adventurous. And then I guess that you were talking about how in Europe you have a lot of people that are doing 30 days of vacation. Even in the U.S., they've determined that if you're taking vacations, you're actually more likely to increase your productivity at work. And believe it or not, you're more likely to get a raise if you take the vacations, because you have a better productivity when you're back and when you're in the workplace.
When you get away, you get ideas. I almost feel like Allie and I were with her family down in the Outer Banks and trying to get away from 35 people in one house. You take a little walk down the beach and all of a sudden you start thinking of things and all these ideas, fresh ideas come to your mind, and it kind of gets you charged back up to get back into town and get back into your routine too. So press and reset is just, can't say enough good things about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we can probably go ahead and move on to our Ask the Doc.
Sure. So this week's Ask the Doc question is actually going to be a 2-part series, guys. The person who wrote in asked us to compare and contrast the benefits of ice therapy and heat therapy. So Craig, lead it off.
So first off, real quick, what is the difference between comparing and contrasting?
I don't know, but that's what they wrote in. So I was just reading what they wrote in.
Saying like the same thing twice. I don't know. Yeah. We've seen it in school, but I think that they mean the same thing.
Sure. Maybe pros and cons of both.
Fair enough.
That's what we're going to present anyways.
So what we're going to do, we're going to talk about ice. Look, the science is all over the place on this. There's so many people that want to dog on it. The guy who originally came out with the rest ice compression and elevation, he said, well, I changed my mind. I don't like the ice. It delays healing or whatever. We don't think it's really that. And some people say it delays healing because inflammation is a natural part of the healing process. Others say that it can make the muscle stiffer or whatever. But clinical evidence is really hard to argue against. So for what I think we should do is just talk about what we find. Forget about the science for a second, because sadly, I think science can tell you anything that you're looking for and people will be quick to debunk science that doesn't fit their agenda sometimes, just like the news.
Sure.
So let's talk about what we do in our practice. I know that for an injury that comes in, I'm always going with ice. And it's not just for the 24 hours. For me, It's as long as the signs and symptoms of inflammatory change are present. So I know that so there are some chronic things that will come with inflammation as well. Tennis elbow, impingement syndrome, and even sciatica. They don't really recommend a whole lot of icing, and I don't really recommend for icing for simple low back pain and discomfort. But when it comes to sciatica, a lot of times that compressive nature on the sciatic nerve, the last thing I would want to do is bring heat to the area and make something more compressive. So if it is indeed diagnosed as like a true sciatica with compression, I'm always going to be doing something that anything with radiating pain, I'm always doing ice.
So we definitely think along the same lines. I'm going to just kind of go back and forth on quizzing, because earlier off air we were talking about if there's something central to the spine, we may not ice, but if there's something in the extremities, we might ice in that same acute arena. So what are you thinking on that?
Again, the further out it goes, if it is indeed a radiating type of a pain, I think that ice definitely has its place. Now, though, the one that is a big exception to that rule is headache. So headaches typically respond much better to ice over heat because many headaches are coming with a vasodilation. So ice will vasoconstrict, so it tightens up all the blood vessels and slows down that constant pooling, pounding. It's kind of throbbing in your head. So ice works a bit better than heat, and I think heat usually exacerbates that problem. Yep.
And today, actually, oddly enough, I cut back on coffee the past few days, and I had a little bit of a headache that was starting to get into the temples and then to the crown of the head, and it was just occipital region on the back of the neck. It was really relentless. So the only thing I didn't do was ice, but I hadn't really been home much today. So before I head off to bed here, we'll definitely have to do a little bit of ice. Well, let's go with that too. So timing on things. I know the 20-minute rule's typically been, that standard, but what do you see?
Well, I think the most efficient type of icing is going to be your ice cup, where you take a paper Dixie cup, freeze water in it, and then rip it off, and then you're doing an ice massage. That only requires 5 minutes, so it's direct contact.
Okay.
If you're using your typical frozen bag of peas or the gel packs or whatever, then kind of 20 minutes, one of those things. I know we're not talking heat necessarily today, but I'll usually, if I have something that may respond to a little bit of alternating back and forth, even for pain control, just on that, you can do 10 minutes, 10 minutes. So
that was my next question, was contrast therapy. And then it's always hard because you want to save it for the next show. But for some of the more chronic issues, I think we're going to find that that'll benefit the heat therapy, and we'll cover that next week.
And obviously, cryotherapy in and of itself is new and big, and getting in the tanks. The one thing I will throw out there, and this is not to dog on the ones that are only neck down, but most of the research that really shows the neurologic benefit of short-term intense cryotherapy are the ones where you get your whole body in there.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you have to be careful. You don't want to be frostbitten or anything, so be prepared to wear the proper footies and stuff. You don't want to be burning your feet up or anything like Antonio Brown.
Oh my God. Did you see his feet? How disgusting that was.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That was awful. I will say too, at some of the local cryotherapy places up here in Northeast Ohio, they definitely get you all the garments you need and read everything as far as contraindications and stuff go. But it is powerful. It definitely can be something that you'll accomplish days worth of icing in just a couple of minutes. I think 3 minutes is the maximum they'll let you get in there. But I didn't notice too much of a benefit for my lower back, but for some extremity aches and pains that I was going through, it definitely helped.
Yeah, and I think that to some extent that's because you don't get that head in there. So by lowering the temperature at the brain, you're really getting that CNS effect, and that's going to be kind of what helps that overall reset. Now, for local stuff, they have, I don't know if the ones local here have it, but you can do local cryotherapy. The little gun that's shooting the cold stuff. That takes a little bit less time than a traditional icing session. So that's a way to save some time.
Sure. Yeah, I think they have the one I'm thinking of is a little bit north of here, but they have what you're talking about, like a local blast. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's what they call it for their pamphlets, but yeah, they'll do knees, they'll do shoulders, anything that's more isolated outside the tank.
Then so those the game readies, that
Okay.
you put on like the extremities. You can put it, wrap it around the shoulder, and it circulates cold water.
From Hyper Ice.
Hyper Ice has them. Game Ready is a particular brand that is one that's out there. I know that that's very popular in the post-surgical phase of, ACL tears, whatever. You put them in your knees. I think those things are really cool. You can eBay them now for, relatively cheap, and it looks like a cooler, and it just circulates really, really cold water. I've never used them. I've had patients who've used them. They swear by them. They love them. They've gone out and spent a couple $100 on getting one even for themselves.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So that's an interesting one. One other thing I did want to mention, we were talking about the frostbite on the toes, the gel packs. You cannot stick one of those things in the freezer and then apply that direct to the skin. That definitely can cause an ice burn. I just had a set of pictures come across my desk, and it was a kind of a, hey, doctor, guess the ailment. It looked like a giant rash, and here what it was somebody using those, and it was a burn, and they had burnt themselves using the ice pack, and it was pretty damaging to the skin. They were blistering the whole deal. So
just what you're maybe suggesting is just lay a layer of some cloth,
thin layer, or those packs do hold pretty well, so you can kind of throw them in their fridge and get a benefit. So you're not going to get the ice cold, but if it's so ice cold that it's solid, you cannot apply that direct to your skin. It's like
good point.
From A Christmas Story, who goes out and sticks his tongue to the pole.
Yes, great movie.
Yep,
we'll be watching it here soon, a couple months.
Coming up.
You want to slide right into the final thoughts?
Yeah, man, let's roll with it.
Okay, so today's final thoughts are simply the thinking about what we like to call planting the seed. I know a few episodes back, maybe it was one of our first episodes, we talked about watering our flowers. And this is a little bit similar to that too, but why don't you break down the first part of this, and we'll kind of evolve this combo.
Yeah. So to compare and contrast the two between the watering the plants and the planting the seed, I mean, you got to start somewhere, right? So if you don't plant that seed, you're never going to have that tree. Okay. So first and foremost, you have to start. And if you don't ever plant that seed, you won't ever have that tree. So first and foremost, you have to start. Then you do have to tend to it. But I think the big purpose of us talking about this today is not necessarily that you have to tend to it, because realistically, if you plant a tree, you don't have to water it every day, especially in Ohio because it rains all the freaking time. But what you do have to do is you have to plant it, and you have to be patient. So you will not have a huge tree in 2 weeks. You're going to have to wait. You're going to have to realize that that's going to take time. So I think that that's really where it comes down to. Yes, it takes that daily nurturing of, in this case, nature maybe doing its thing. But the big part about it is, number one, you have to start, and number two, you have to be patient. But of course, you have to add a little bit of work to it all the time as well.
So we can take this through anything with health or working out in the gym. In my world, like mobility, if a muscle was easily stretched and you just gained 2 inches of ankle mobility, there'd be something wrong with our body. It takes a long time to get mobility gains, is just like any muscular gains or building a better posture through multiple chiropractic adjustments, on and on. And so, I love this topic because I feel like you could take it to anything, and with any of the goals that you may have. The big thing is being patient and just staying the course. I shared this on the Instagram stories today, that I thought it was a great topic for us to kind of get the mind right on. Everybody wants instant gratification. They want to be fixed yesterday. They want to have this perfect body, or they want to have financial success and overnight. And it just doesn't happen. You got to come up with a game plan, keep your mind on the end goal, but work at it every day, or a couple times a day even. Like we give patients homework, and they have the responsibility of doing that sometimes a couple times a day, to next time we see them in a week or two, hopefully they're in a better place because they've been doing their homework. And
again, you have to start. So if your goal is to get in shape, you can't just say, I can't do it. You have to start. So you can't expect it to happen in one workout. You can't expect to have all your pain relief from chiropractic in one adjustment. But if you never make that initial call for your chiro appointment, you never get that gym membership, so you walk in the first day, it's not going to happen because you never planted the seed. So don't expect a tree to grow where you planted no seed.
almost comes back to last week or the week before when we were talking about creator versus victim mindset. You are the captain of your ship. You are totally in control of where the ship's going. You just got to make the right decisions and I don't want to leave out, but like even relationships, what we put into it on both sides of the coin, it takes two. And if it's just one person dragging it along, it's not going to last very long. In this case, we're talking about healthcare, make the right choices every day. And if you're looking for help, come find us. Absolutely. We got some good ideas and we've had a great, record of helping people too.
Yeah. I know you got to do a cool group this past week.
Yeah. So really random and off the grid. Blossom Music Center up here in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. They had a concert series that brought back some of the oldies mixed with the goodies. So Nelly and TLC and Flo Rida were there. And I'll be honest, I didn't get a chance to work on any of those headliners, but it was everybody who was on stage with them. So like the dancers, the crew members and all that. I did get to see a couple of them in the hallways and they said, "What's up?" and dap me up,
Right.
and yeah, so it was good. It was good to see them, in person and stuff. But it's amazing to see what the flexibility, for example, of like the dancers, the guys and girls, the stuff that they can do is incredible. So adjusting, you got to kind of change up how you're working on them. And it's not like the person who's under the bus. The other guy told me he was under the bus earlier and he was trying to fix something with a wrench. And the position he showed me was incredible how he was able to do that. But he's like, antifreeze was literally going all over his face and into his mouth. And it was, and he smelled like it too when he came back to get adjusted. But this goes to show you, like, there's some hardworking people out there that are behind the scenes putting on these great shows for these headliners. And it was pretty cool to be actually underground backstage. It was kind of a part of Blossom. I'm not going to lie. If I didn't have anybody in the room, I was kind of exploring and just trying to see what was going on. And there were some pretty, not as creepy as the house that you're in, but some cool little corners that I don't think too many people have ever seen. So it was a good time.
Yeah, it's always neat. I got to work with Three Doors Down a couple back, and their opening band was Ottawa, and Ottawa's a local band, and they actually blew me away with how good they were. So they were cool, and I think I ended up working on just as many of the crew, and it was always that way when I used to work with WWE as well. I would make sure that it was all the camera guys and all the stage hands and people who are lugging in these giant trunks and whatnot, not just the wrestlers. And I'm like, look, man, if I'm there, I want to be able to treat you if I possibly can. And, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, we have to go through, we're in a situation like that. We have to go through a little screening process with each person. Mm-hmm. It helps if they've been adjusted before. But it's nice to give those first ones. But the people who are the first timers, you got to go through a little bit more of a process. And sometimes you got to say, we're not going to do this today.
Right. Even though you want to, it's just, you got to, if there's any signs that you got to back it off. There was a couple people who were first timers. And then there was a couple people who, they have their chiro back home, wherever home may be. And they gave me the rundown of what, their x-rays may look like, this and that. Granted, I'm primarily going off of some quick orthopedic testing, primarily palpation and what they're presenting with. But some of these people just wanted to feel good for the performance for the show. So that was also refreshing. But I swear to you, I was there from 1 till about 8. And I don't think there was but like a random 5 or 10 minute break. People were telling other people that, hey, there's a chiro here, So for the profession, man, you guys got to get out there and start, just like Live Nation, for example, like they put on the show. I met somebody through the Shinedown group that said, hey, we'd like to have a chiro down. And it's great. These people work hard and they need what we do. So it's a lot of fun.
It's always fun to be able to, again, extend our ability to make a difference out to people, that not just the ones who are coming in our practice. And again, that's why we do this. That's why we do this show. So,
yep. Right. That's fun, man. We both had some crazy busy weeks. Actually, you spoke about storms. We had a crazy storm yesterday. I don't know if you heard about it, but
I heard. My car was still a little bit wet when I landed and got back to it. I was like, wow, there's some rain. I guess one of the gyms that I go to was without power, and they might be without power until 11:30 tomorrow night.
Oh my God. Where was that at?
In Talmadge, Buckeye Gym in Talmadge.
Oh, Buckeye. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm told. I don't know if they've gotten it back or not, but one of their posts said that they might not have power. So
got it.
I know it's still like in the upper to mid to upper 80s. So I probably will not be going.
No, that'll be like sauna training, which we'll save for next week.
Yeah, I'll go to the other gym though. So, all right, guys, I think that's probably all we got for today. We're going to be back next week. We got the Buckeyes getting ready to start their season. Brownies getting ready to start their season. Indians heating up. So I know we've been tuned to the sports. We're going to probably try to gather some of our sports people that we can on the upcoming interviews, and I think we have an exciting next couple shows.
Yep, can't wait for football. Ready.
All right, guys. You guys all have a great week.
Yep.
Take care.
Have a great one, guys. See ya.